is Pierce Allman from the Texas School Book Depository Building for WFAA News. Just a few minutes ago, the President of the United States turned from Houston Street onto Elm Street on his way to a scheduled luncheon appearance at the Stemmons Trade Mart. And as he went by the Texas School Book Depository, headed for the Triple Underpass, there were 3 loud, reverberating explosions. Nobody moved. Everyone seemed stunned. A few seemed to look around, wondering who has the firecrackers. Then suddenly the Secret Service men sprang into action. The convertible bearing the President and Mrs. Kennedy sped away, and officers, both plainclothes and uniformed, seemed to spring from everywhere at once, guns drawn, ordering people to lie flat. There are 2 witnesses who were near the President's car at the time of the explosions who say that shots were fired from which upper window we do not know. We do not and cannot confirm the reports at this time that the President has been shot. One witness says he definitely was shot, that he was hit twice, that he saw the President slump in his seat. As I say, this is not confirmed at this time. From where I am, the police have 2 witnesses. They are bringing them in now. I'm in the Texas School Book Depository Building. They're bringing some witnesses in now. We will try to learn further and relay word to the station.
Proudly present to you the Lone Gunman Podcast with your host, Rob Clark, where research comes to shine and myths come to die. Stay tuned, be right there.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode number 87 of the Lone Gunman Podcast. This is Rob Clark, your host, and today I'm proud to bring to you part 2 of my Richard Gilbride interview. And in this part, we will start dissecting his article, Inside Job, and all about the Texas School Book Depository workers and what they could have possibly been up to on November 22nd, 1963. Because when you take the time to actually compare what they've said over the years, what they said to the Warren Commission, what they said in their first day interviews and testimony, it contradicts each other a lot and it changes a lot. So you have to wonder why. Why do the people who work there do the things they do that day? Why could some of them possibly be lying about what they were doing that day? And we're going to examine all that in part 2 today, and then next week we'll bring you part 3. And then after that, we're going to be at the anniversary of the assassination already. It's already November. We're about 2 weeks away from the anniversary. I can't believe it's here already. So if you haven't made plans yet, Lancer is having a conference in Dallas this year on the anniversary with lots of great speakers. So if you're heading that way, make sure you head over to the conference there. And my friends from the ROKC in Australia are having their JFK conference the weekend of the assassination. So if you are heading to Australia, make sure you look them up and take them in, and you can hear Greg Parker. He's came in at the last minute. He's gonna be speaking there. So, but here's my friends at the ROKC giving you more information on where you can get your tickets. Okay, and I will be right back with Richard Gilbride in part 2 of Inside Job.
This is a very dangerous and uncertain world. No one expects that our life will be easy. Certainly not in this decade, and perhaps not in this century.
The ROKC, Reopen the Kennedy Case, proudly presents the first ever Australian JFK Conference in Melbourne, Australia this November. Join us on a quest for justice and truth with inspirational speakers and some of the world's leading authorities on the Kennedy assassination. Featured guest speakers include Citizens for Truth about the Kennedy assassination speaker and acclaimed author James DiEugenio, Gail Nix Jackson, author and granddaughter of Orville Nix, and Australia's very own Peter Morris. For more info, buy your tickets at stickytickets.com/Reopen Kennedy Case Conference, because justice is never too late.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the show. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast. I am Rob Clark, your host, and back on the show this week, part two, my guest, Richard Gilbride, author of Matrix for Assassination and author of many articles that can be found on the internet and at the ROKC forum. And we're going to be talking about one of his new articles today that he has written, and that is called Inside Job. And you're not going to want to miss it, so don't tune out, don't turn the dial, don't turn it down, don't take a break. Richard, welcome back, sir. How you doing?
Well, good to be here. The first section is entitled Down the Steps at 12:34. So, the idea was that the Warren Commission wanted to give you the idea that Oswald left the depository at 12:33. And I can quote right here. It says, after leaving Mrs. Reed in the front office, Oswald Gilbride had gone down the stairs and out the front door by 12:33, 3 minutes after the shooting.
Right.
And they, I think that they're trying to get him out the building and onto a bus. I think that's the motive for them. But if you look carefully at this, you actually had some interactions on the front landing. It would have taken him another minute, and it makes all the difference in the world.
Right.
And so I looked at this. Welcome Barnett is the officer, the patrolman, who was stationed up between the depository and the Dalpex, right on Houston Street. He ran to the back, and then he ran back to the intersection, and he estimated it was about 2.5 or 3 minutes before he got on the front landing. 3 at the most is what he said. And he had guarded the front entrance there until 3 p.m. But he didn't mention this in his after action report, which he did not file until July 16th. In fact, which is, a long time.
Yeah.
And so he was asked on his July 23rd testimony, did you let anybody out of the building after you got there? He said, no, sir, until they were authorized. So, in other words, it was probably somebody that you let out of the building who was authorized to leave. But he didn't deny seeing Oswald, because he had seen his picture in the paper and whatnot, and but he denied completely that he had seen Oswald. And so there was a contrary story that got overheard by Detective Ed Hicks. Now, Ed Hicks was worked in the Auto Theft Bureau, and he only started work at 3 p.m. that day, so he must have heard this secondhand. But what he heard was that Oswald came out the front door of the Red Brick Warehouse. A policeman asked him where he was going. Oswald said he wanted to see what the excitement was all about. We also get a story from the Sydney Morning Herald. Oswald walked through the door of the warehouse and stopped by a policeman. Oswald told the policeman that worked here. And when another employee confirmed that he did, the policeman let Oswald walk away. And so you get further corroboration from the postal inspector, Harry Holmes, who sat in on the Sunday morning interrogation of Oswald. And he had said that Oswald had said, police officer stopped me just before I got to the front door, started to ask me some questions, and my superintendent of the place stepped up and told the officers that I am one of the employees. So here we have a superintendent and a policeman that Oswald was bumping into on the front landing.
Yeah, this sounds like a familiar story, but the wrong place, right?
Well, you also get more information from James Drummond, the checker, who, when he was interviewed by the HSCA, started to run out the building. He got stopped. They had to go back inside. And then I quote him. He says, after we was inside the building, after that, I heard that Oswald had come down from the office, come down the front stairs, and he was stopped by the officer that stopped us. That's back in the building. Mr. Shelley told him that was all right, that he worked here. So then he proceeded on out of the building. There was a Billy Love lady standing up there. He was on the steps, see? And Oswald was coming out the door, and he said the police stopped Oswald. Billy Love lady said that Mr. Shelley told the policeman that Oswald was all right. He worked there. So Oswald walked on down the stairs. So that's really four sources that either talk about a policeman or three of them that talk about a superintendent that are on the landing there. So that's quite a bit of it's a pretty rich vein that is indicating that it's probably the truth.
Right. And very different from the official story, that we've been told all this time,
Well, yeah, absolutely, because you get the idea that Oswald was split right off the bat. And what's the kicker here is that Malcolm Barnett's still alive, and he went to one of these 50th anniversary conferences. And at that, he said, I looked at the man who shot the president walk out the front door. So in other words, he's saying he let Lee Harvey Oswald walk out the front door. He realizes this. He acknowledges it. But if he had said that back in 1964, the investigation would have just been completely different.
Yeah.
Completely changed the whole course. So we have something else that helps us pin the time on this thing, which is Pierce Allman, WFA radio reporter,
right,
and went up into the building looking for a phone. And I traced through his itinerary and the timing of him getting there. And I'm going to make sure I work at that and not go through the details of that. But it's funny, you can look at it carefully, and you get it see the measured distances he traveled pretty accurately. And I think you get within 15 seconds, say, when, your margin of error is when he arrived in there. And what the person who first recorded this interaction, Secret Service Inspector Thomas Kelly, had also been at that Sunday morning meeting. He said that Oswald, he encountered this young crew-cut man. He thought he was Secret Service, and he pointed toward the payphone in the building. He saw the man actually go to the phone before he left. So Oswald was inside the lobby looking through the glass inside the warehouse and watching Pierce Allman go to a phone.
Right.
And we can really, the thing is that the network timestamps Pierce Allman's broadcast at 12:34, even though we took a little bit of, had a little trouble connecting to a station. We can really be sure that at 12:33, Oswald is inside the lobby watching him go to the phone. So he walks to the landing and encountered the policeman and William Shelley and Billy Lovelady out there. So.
And there's another two curious guys that their first day testimony differs greatly from what they told the Warren Commission.
Well, the thing is, they want to get him on a bus.
Right.
And at this point, I backtracked to Howard Brennan had run up to Barnett earlier on. I backtracked and there's some interesting stuff. Howard Brennan is very underrated as far as a witness because he was the one that the Warren Commission relied on for a kind of a small description of what the sniper looked like. And but he had some interesting stuff to say because he had gone home and his wife and grandson had said they had seen him on TV. And almost positive that Oswald had been that the TV had captured Oswald coming down the steps. But the problem was, when Brennan went to testify, he expected that the Warren Commission would have this footage.
Right.
And the problem was, he was being harassed by Brennan was being harassed by a TV and a radio guy, and he was trying to get away from them. So he thought for sure that he had missed Oswald coming out. Oswald was not in a sniper's nest, so he wouldn't have recognized him. But the thing was that he'd been on the steps on TV during those first couple of minutes. And probably we would have gotten a picture of Oswald leaving the building. And Brennan blamed the FBI guy named Robert Lish for editing out that particular segment. And this was looked into in 1967 by one of the early photo researchers, Richard Gilbride. And he had phoned that station, which is an independent station, KTVT. And he was told it was all lost on the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, this, that would have helped us determine, just what happened on the landing when Oswald left. And we would change the whole story. So that kind of smooths the transition into the next section I have, which is called William Shelley, Betrayal and Perjury. So I start out there. You have Oswald explaining to the FBI in his first interrogation that he went outside and he stood around for 5 to 10 minutes with foreman Bill Shelley. And based upon the remarks of Bill Shelley, he did not believe there was going to be any more work that day. So he left. And we didn't get to hear that until after Oswald was dead, unfortunately. This was the FBI agent James Bookout's solo report, and he didn't file that until the 25th of November. And Shelley, so you have to wonder what is going on with Bill Shelley, because he had been interviewed by the FBI on November 22nd, and he admitted to seeing Oswald just before lunch, but he explicitly denied seeing him ever again. He seen him like 10 minutes before noon.
Right.
I think is what he said. And so when Bill Shelley and Billy Lovelady, they're kind of like Batman and Robin. One Billy Lovelady's sidekick. They were always together on this particular day. And so they watched the motorcade together from the landing, and it was a great discovery made by a German film researcher, Gerhard Dunkel, a couple of years ago, that he actually saw Shelley and Lovelady leaving the landing, and they had tried to confuse the accounts of what happened during the initial minutes after the assassination. As far as the arrival of Marion Baker and Secretary Gloria Calvary, they didn't have it clear at all, but you can see clearly in this film discovery that they're walking down the Elm Street extension before Officer Baker even got to the steps. So they were, what they did was they headed down to the first railroad track, down past the West Annex into the third parking lot. And they stayed there briefly. They stayed there, they estimated it was a minute or two, or just a minute and a half. And so you can really place them there at about 2 minutes after the assassination, and that will figure in later, in my thinking. And Lovelady testified how from there they went into the west entrance on the back dock that had that low ramp. So if you look at the picture, you can see there's a carport attached to the west annex facing that rail yard, and there's also like a ramp that leads up to a door right next to the carport that will lead back into the west annex and back into the building. And so they went through that double door that we in the morning, when we get there, we raised. They went through one of the overhead doors. And they weren't asked whether they went back to the front landing, but, it's a 20-second walk once you go through that overhead door, you're right back to the front landing. So they more or less made a whole complete circle. And so Oswald had to be was probably telling the truth as an interrogation that he stood around with Bill Shelley. And obviously he's exaggerating a little bit, that 5 or 10 minutes, but the thing is that even in their Dallas police affidavits, these guys both denied, Shelley and Lovely both denied seeing Oswald. So something was up right from the get-go. And so you have to ask, I mean, why would they think that they had no contact with Oswald on the front landing? What's the big deal? I mean, I thought about this, and now all I came up with is that one obvious question that would be asked, even if he just walked off. Which way did you see him go? Did you see him go right or left, or straight ahead, or down Houston Street? That's a pretty obvious follow-up question. And then if they didn't want to get involved with that tells me that he probably did not take a left and follow the official story was that he had gone left a few blocks and just knocked on the door of a city bus.
Right.
Got on that bus. But the unofficial story was that he had gone to the right and went to the pergola area, and a few minutes later a white Rambler pulled up to the Elm Street curb, and that's where Roger Craig said he heard a shrill whistle. He saw someone who looked like Oswald run down to the white Rambler.
Now, did you hear what Frazier said a couple years ago about Oswald leaving the building?
Yeah, I saw that, and I don't find that credible.
I don't either. Because he said he came down Houston Street and he watched him walk down, turn on the main street, but said Oswald didn't come out through the front.
Well, I think Frazier follows the research, and I think he tries to make things up to go along to keep protecting himself.
Right.
So, I mean, in any case, it seemed to me that was part of the reason that they denied even seeing him was if you use something called Occam's razor, which is the principle of fewest assumptions, that it was because Oswald had actually gone to the right, and they needed to keep this hidden. And one of William Weston's best articles was called The Glade Letters, because it turned out that in 1975, Shelley was interviewed by a journalist, Elsie Glaze, and he had a tape recorder, he was allowed to take notes, and was probably pretty sure that what Glaze wrote in that article was the truth. And Shelley had told him that the Dallas police had placed him under arrest, and they formally charged him with the murder of the president.
Well,
So this is pretty astounding stuff.
Yeah.
And, so in a way that kind of makes sense, because he actually put out 2 first-day affidavits, which is like kind of mysterious as to why he would do that. That makes sense if he was first arrested, and then maybe somebody within the department got him, off arrest, and he then produced a second affidavit.
right.
I don't know how it worked, but I mean that would make sense to me.
Well, that first one, he just kind of said that he went back in the building and to call his wife. He didn't mention going to the tracks with Lovelady or anything.
No, they didn't come out until the FBI made a bunch of blanket interviews in March with all the employees. That's the standard set of questions to all the employees that started to come out. That's why it kind of came out more during his testimony, which was a few weeks later.
Right.
So, we didn't even know that until springtime. And So another bombshell he also dropped on Blaze was that he said he'd been an intelligence officer during the Second World War, and thereafter joined the CIA.
Yeah.
Which was like, holy mackerel, you know. So he had a picture of this humdrum clerk at a book depository joining the CIA. You know, so what's the story there? You know, and the CIA was formed in 1947. So it's given the impression that during his formative years that he can't remember. And, you know, this is true. I mean, how many other people were in the CIA, and what was that building used for? You know, was it a cover for drug smuggling or drug or gun or what have you? You know, it's just a cover. It's just an innocent-looking book repository. So you gotta wonder. That's all I know. Graves had some spooky stuff happen to him. He got freaked out by about 20 officers once surrounding his apartment or whatever, and he got real scared. Then it took him like 2 years to contact the HSVA, and they only gave him kind of a form letter response. You know, they just didn't look into this at all.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, hey, thanks.
Yeah, it's just like they didn't look into a lot of stuff, but they just did not suspect or want to go into the book depository personnel. It's really up to the citizenry to do that. So my next section is the real meat of the essay, which is I entitled "Doherty on the Loose." This is about Jack Doherty. I have 3 pictures of Jack Doherty. He's been kind of missing in action, I guess you'd say. I give a little history on these pictures. I had it was who I suspected for a long time. Back when I wrote this essay called "The Elevator Escape Theory," and I think it was 2010, and when Greg Parker published it, and get this email response from this fellow, John Woods, from the Assassination Forum. And in that response, he said, on that interesting article, whatever. And I'm looking at a picture of Doherty right now. We were all just like, oh my God, who is this? What does he look like? And so Greg passed it on to me, and then I emailed John Woods, and I said, well, hey, you know, that's interesting. Would you please share that with me? But you know, if you do, we're going to make it public. You know, just to show what it is. So he never got back to me. And then about a year later, I was looking through his forum, and using the discussion, they were talking about this one news photo that I have in my essay. And in this news photo, you can see Arcade, Danny Arcade, and Bill Kelly in there. And then there's this dirty blonde kind of behind Danny Arcade. And John Woods basically spelled it right out that you're looking right at Doherty, but nobody in the discussion seemed to realize this. You know? I don't know if they were, I don't know what the state of mind was, but the topic came up again in a education forum thread discussion. Pat Spear had kind of alerted his fellow forum members that that blonde could be Jack Doherty. And so I was last summer I was kind of looking through some old Assassination Forum archives just to see if there's anything I could use in my article and for pictures.
Right.
And I was looking through these old World War II photos that they had posted, and I saw this one guy standing in front of a plane. I said, "Keep it. Let me look. They compare that to this news photo." And sure enough, I mean, it was like a dead ringer. The angle of his cheekbone, the shape of his nose, and the shape of his ear. This was a dead ringer for the guy who was like, you know, 20 years later, you see him in Gilbride, Plaza. But you're looking at him with a full dress, formal soldier portrait at the air base in Indiana where he was stationed. And so I said, wow, that is absolutely. The thing was, I never came out with my suspicions. I just wanted to be super, super sure.
Right.
And I am super, super sure. This is Jack Doherty and Stewart, Elf, Grinch, and the works. And so, it's nice to be able to have that settled. I don't think there's going to be any dispute about this. And so, like, thing was, you have this news picture, you have various statements from police as to who they took down to the station when, and you have information for Charlie and RK and all these other guys, so you don't have any information on when Jack Doherty was taken in. But you do have one statement of Walter Potts. When he was a guy that took Doherty's affidavit, and so during the taking of that affidavit, Lee Harvey Oswald was brought in. This was approximately 2 p.m. at the homicide office when Doherty was filling out his affidavit. And if you look at the penmanship here, it's almost like perfect penmanship. It looks like you could teach a penmanship class. I mean, it's so perfect. And you have to look at this very carefully because I'll tell you a quote from it. I had already gone back to work, and I had gone down to the 5th floor to get some stuff, and I heard a shot. It sounded like it was coming from inside the building, but I couldn't tell from where. I went down the 1st floor and asked the man named Eddie Piper if he heard anything. He said yes, he heard 3 shots. I then went back on the 6th floor. So he's saying he went down to the 6th floor. So, I mean, obviously he came from either the 6th or the 7th. But in the 7th, and even Captain Fritz had been up there, and there was a completely empty room. There was a little storeroom in the corner, in the front corner, and file cabinets and chairs and lamps and whatnot. But I mean, otherwise it was a completely empty room. So Fritz had been up there himself. He's the guy, the head of homicide, that would all the affidavits went to him. He would check them at whatever point at the end of the evening, he would be able to review what was said in all the affidavits. So, the thing was, this is an admission that he had been on the 6th floor right before the shooting.
Right.
And they never took him back here. What you see up there, let's know what you were doing and walking down this and that aisle. You never did see anyone over there by the sniper's nest. None of the agencies, not the Dallas Police, FBI, Secret Service, took him back up there. I mean, this is
it's amazing.
A big red flag.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something going on. I mean, this guy Oswald, he's pretty much vehement. He's saying, "Hey, I didn't do this thing," and they could have brought Doherty up there, and he could have done something completely incriminating, but they just did not do it. They had the chance. I mean, there's a big red flag right there.
Yeah.
And the thing was, he's basically portraying himself as having like an almost spontaneous reaction. And he goes downstairs and he asks Eddie Piper if he heard anything. And Piper tells him, yes, I heard 3 shots. Well, if you look at the speed of the elevators, this really flies Doherty. Because you got to measure how fast this elevator is going. Did he have time to do what he said he did? And you get 2 estimates from that. You get one came from Billy Lovelady, which was pretty rough. And in much of the time, this was a stopwatch. And he said it takes 30 seconds to go from floor 7 to floor 1. He said he timed this himself. He said this on the day of the assassination to the FBI. The FBI conducted time trials the next week. What they did was they picked 10 different routes that Oswald could have traveled from the sniper's nest and out the building. And some of them involved either the elevator already being on floor 6, or some of them involved the same situation where he had to call the elevator up from floor 1 to floor 6. So this was interesting. I had the document in front of me right here. FBI 105-82555, Oswald HQ file, section 21, page 129. And on trials 2 and 3, and on trials 7 and 8, you have the exact same set of conditions. The only exception being one of them, you have to call the elevator all the way up to 6. The other one is available already on floor 6. And so the difference here in both pairs is 39 seconds. So I think that's a pretty accurate measure of how fast the elevator is traveling. Those 5 floors in 39 seconds.
Right.
That's about 7.8 seconds per floor. So if you look out that he had to the thing was when Truman Baker you have a very good measure of the time it took to come into the building. You have the JFK Lancer study that film ends just as Baker had put the plan his foot on the first step of the depository with 7 steps. So you can basically, even going as slow as molasses, you can put Baker in the front lobby at 30 seconds, ascertaining from Truly where the heck what's the best way to get upstairs. And two of them then going through the roll call counter door and past the offices and then back to where the freight elevators are.
Right.
And even as slow as you can, just rationally make these guys, they have to get there by 60 seconds. Even if they took, if Truly was trying to stall him with any trick and look he could come up with, they have to get there by 60 seconds. And the thing is, that is not enough time for, the thing is that they looked up the staff and they looked up and they saw that the elevators were both evenly on the 5th floor.
Right.
And 60 seconds is not enough time for Dory to come down and then back up. It's the rate of travel of the elevators, I think, takes 62. Plus, it's going to take a couple seconds to get the gates open and get out of there. Plus, it's going to take a couple more seconds to talk to Piper, supposedly, and then we're going to have to process that information and decide to go back upstairs. I mean, it's physically impossible with Dory as a near spontaneous reaction. When Cook went downstairs at the reaction to a shot, talked to Eddie Piper. I mean, this only happened when the elevator went down mysteriously while Truman and Baker were climbing the stairs.
Right.
So, it's just the thing was once you dissect Dory's alibi, you realize the prepared alibi, very cleverly done, but it doesn't hold up, and it's physically impossible, and it's basically pretty staggering. I mean, you realize that he had to. He was probably involved in the plot, and there's probably other employees involved in the plot. This is really the central argument I make for employee complicity.
Yeah, I mean, and they kind of play him off as like, somewhat slow or.
Truly had basically chaperoned him during his Secret Service interview and called him mentally retarded.
Right.
He cut off questioning. And he blurted it out, an interesting thing. He had blurted out that he actually worked on the floor laying crew.
Yeah.
And that he had gone downstairs in the elevator race with them. So, I mean, Jack was starting to tell too much, and that's when Truly cut off the questioning. And if you look into his background, it's really kind of bizarre. The place in Indiana where he was stationed for a year or so during the war was the central collection point for Nazi captured equipment. They came to fill 42 warehouses. I looked at YouTube, actually, a half-hour YouTube of this stuff that they had there. You see the V-2 missiles standing on gantries, and you see Nazi planes flying over the Indiana field. It's kind of wild. So this is where they would basically take stuff apart and reverse engineer it, not to figure out what the German engineers are doing, because they were at least 5 or 7 years ahead of the Allies as far as their technology. They had some genius scientists there working on their rocket technology, and blah blah and what have you. And so this is a place where when he happened to be stationed, you ever wonder what they're hiding, whether there was some kind of doctoring of soldiers, volunteer soldiers, and whether they had some mental testing going on, whatever. I would not know. The Army has to come up with that. It was the Army Air Corps that he was in. It was before it became the Air Force officially. But they had to come up with that. But there would be, there's certainly grounds for wondering what the heck was going on with it.
Yeah, because I always thought that was a weird allegation. Because you wouldn't think that the Army would let in somebody that slow, or mentally deficient at all. Really.
Yeah, and the strange thing about him is he wouldn't say what he was doing after the war. He started working for the depository in 1952. But, he got out of the service, I think, in 44. And for 8 years, he had basically, he said he did nothing.
Right.
Basically, I guess, lived with his parents or whatever. Stayed in his room. I don't know what he did. And, he was certainly an interesting study. There was a couple of assistant counsels that had their suspicions about him. Melvin Eisenberg wrote a memo called Identity of Assassin.
Yeah.
And also, another fellow, Norman Redruth, wrote a memo called Mystery of the West Elevator. And these are well worth looking for in detail. I guess I'll save that for another time. But these guys were certainly suspicious of them, and suspicious about the West Elevator, because for the life of everybody, they could not figure out, when Truman and Baker made up those stairs, the West Elevator went down, and nobody would own up to it, and truly all he would say was his best guess was maybe Jack Dougherty had done that, been down it. It occurred to me, I'll share this revelation. I guess it was a revelation. When I was getting serious about trying to put a book together, I took a camping vacation. I went to my old alma mater, the University of Maine. They had a set of Warren bonnets there. This is 2004, and the first time I ever read Jack Dougherty's testimony, so I had this musty old book that spread in front of me in the library. I used to, when I was a teenager or whatever, I used to study it. So, I tried to get all my good old feelings back, and I read his testimony about the speed that you need a screenplay. This was happening in real time. The actors had pauses, and it was all taking place in real time, right in front of you. It took me about an hour. And it was only at the end of his testimony that the counsel, Joseph Ball, kind of extracted out of him that he had brought down the West Elevator. And this to me is just like a a revelation, because I was familiar with pictures of other people up on that 6th floor. I'd seen that picture of the guy in the southwest window that came out on the other Graffy and
the Dillard.
Yes. And I'd also seen the picture that Charles Wallace had championed with the guy in the companion window next to the sniper's nest.
Right.
So to me, those are strangers up there. And to me, it was like I saw Jack Doherty taking strangers down in that West elevator. I mean, it was just, I got up from that meeting, I went out there, it was time for a cup of coffee, and, but I just said, I had it just like a canyon in my mind, wide enough to drive a truck through.
Right.
Jack Doherty taking down these strangers, you know, in that elevator. And really, I've been kind of building my whole research around that the central nugget. You know, it's really the central facet of my research.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this is new information, but I saw it when, because I did a show last week actually on Prayer Man, and because Stan Dane just put out his new book. And so I was talking.
I saw that.
Yeah, so I was talking about that last week, and I was, looking through the forums over at ROKC and noticed that somebody had found out that Bill Shelley and Jack Doherty, and also this guy Potts that was with the police that was interviewing all these workers, had all gone to Crozier Tech in the early 40s, which is
Wow,
I didn't know
about that.
Yeah, they were all there and at the same time in the early 40s. And I believe it was, I can't remember which company Jack Doherty was in. I think he was at Company D and Shelley was in Company B of the ROTC. And, but yeah, Potts, the guy that had interviewed all these depository employees, he was also a former, when he came back to Dallas, he worked for a publishing company for a little while before he became a cop.
Wow. That's a new one on me. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. You're saying that Potts was a member of the ROTC at Crozier Tech?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing because, I mean, Shelley was the lieutenant there. I mean, that is...
And Doherty was too. So you got all these guys in the ROTC together at the same school, and then they all go into the military, and then they all end up back in Dallas.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty cozy.
Yeah. I'd say.
I don't know what to say about that. That's amazing.
And Bill Shelley, when he was at Crozier Tech, he was part of the rifle team, which I would say probably makes him a pretty good shot. I would say,
Oh, and he was on the front landing during the assassination, so I don't think he was a shooter.
Right? No. Yeah, I was just saying it's an interesting story anyway. That him and Doherty would have been at the same school, same time.
That is amazing. I had never heard that. And,
Yeah.
I have to look at that stuff. I get into it's a long section there on Doherty that I skipped over a lot of stuff. I'm not going to share it now, but it's very detailed. Because I try to make the proof that it was impossible for him to fill what he had stated he did in his affidavit. I try to make that as rigorous as possible. But a real long-winded argument, and plus I get into those two assistant counsels in pretty big detail. But I mean, that's for reading the ISA, not for talking about it. My next section, though, people familiar with my work will certainly recognize as well. By the way, this particular essay is it probably is my greatest hit in a way. Because I had to build a case. I just brought out the best of what I had before. But a third to one half of it is brand new. I never expected to come up with what I come up with. And so as this thing builds, this is going to be brand new stuff for the community. You should people look at.
Right. Well, Richard, before we get into it, I think this is probably a good time to call it for today, and then we can get into the next section fresh next week. Does that sound okay?
All right. That's fine, yeah.
All right. Well, people, I thank Richard Gilbride for joining me again today for part one of Inside Job. It's actually part two of my interview with him. And I promise he will be back next week, and we're going to get into some of his newer work and some newer revelations. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. So, Richard, thank you again for joining me again today.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And people, head over to www.tlgpodcast.com for more. I will put up links about stuff we talked about, pictures, so you can follow along at home. And don't forget to tune in next week. All right, we're going to have Richard back again. We're getting close to the anniversary, people. This is your boy, thanking Richard Gilbride for coming back on the show. See you all next week.
This sumbitch is in the can, beamed up this satellite down directly to your ears, people. This is your boy. Peace.